minor league fans, host Jacob Smedley here with one of the broadcasters for the Aberdeen Ironbirds. I spent the last few seasons on the call for them, and also a broadcaster for the Arizona Fall League, getting to see some of the top prospects. It's Michael Marcantonini. First off, before we get into some questions, thank you so much for joining. Glad to have you.
Yeah, Jacob, thanks for having me. I really enjoy what you guys put out content-wise, and really happy to be here to do this interview with you, man.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll get right into it. We'll first start with the Baltimore Orioles. You've seen some of the top players in the system come through over the past few years, from Colton Cowser, Kobe Mayo, Adley Rutschman. You got to see these guys up close and personal in Aberdeen. Take me through the locker room. What was that like to see these guys' prep on a day-to-day basis?
It was pretty cool. One thing that I picked up on pretty early during my time with the Ironbirds and the Orioles organization was that they pay so much attention to detail. The routine before a game is so regimented. They do not waste time. Like if there's time in the day to get work in, they're going to do it. Now, of course, there's days where guys need rest, but one thing that I saw from the start of my time there was that once they got to the ballpark, everything was laid out for these guys where, from this time to this time, it's going to be early work in the cage or on the field if some guys want to hit there. Guys are getting in pregame defense type of stuff. There'd be pitcher meetings, pitcher catcher meetings, outfield meetings, infield meetings, meetings with the mental health skills coach, meetings with roving instructors throughout the organization. So it was really cool to see these guys just continuously doing something to help improve themselves as a baseball player and really as a person. So that's something that I picked up on from really everybody in the organization, players, coaches, instructors, whoever, front office. So because of that, I wasn't surprised at what I saw happen out on the field every night, where I was seeing the pregame prep work that nobody else sees, and then I was seeing it really come to fruition out on the field. There's a reason that guys flew through Aberdeen to get up to Double A, Bowie, now Chesapeake, and then of course up to Triple A Norfolk in the big leagues. Like that system has been stacked for years, and it's no surprise that a lot of those guys have had success at higher levels, especially at the big league level.
And going right from there, one of the names in that group, Samuel Basallo, making his debut in the big, also got to see him making a stop there in 2023. What kind of stood out about him, and kind of take me through his journey through Aberdeen up to the bigs?
Yeah, I mean Samuel Basallo, the what he did during his quick stint at Aberdeen, he was in Aberdeen 4, maybe 5 weeks. It was so impressive. Like the final week of that 2023 season, like I had never seen anything like that at any level of the minor leagues. I mean, he was just destroying opposing pitching. If you threw it in the zone, it was getting clobbered. Double to the gap, home run, way over the wall. Like we don't have to worry about wall scrapers with this guy. Like if it was gone, you knew it was gone. So what was impressive about Basayo is the approach at such a young age. Like he'd be up in the batter's box and it almost looked like he was a big leaguer. Like there were some guys that fooled him or some certain pitches that maybe he took an ugly swing on. His first week with the Ironbirds was a little rough. He was really jumpy at the plate, and it was something that I noticed. I'm like, this guy's in front of everything, hitting dribblers out to second, off the end of the bat back to the pitcher. Like he wanted to do damage from the start, but really after that first week, he just absolutely took off. Like it didn't take him long at all to really lock in and make an adjustment to that next level. And he was doing this as a teenager, like mind you, like one of the youngest, if not the youngest player in the league at that point. And comes up towards the end of that 2023 season. And as soon as he locked in, like everything off his bat was barreled up. It was just solid contact everywhere, even the outs. And it was so impressive because he's kind of a really unassuming presence. Like he's not a guy who's going to show like a ton of emotion out on the field. He's going to show some, and we've seen that at the big league level this past year with the Orioles. But he's really even keel, and I was really impressed because he's that way at such a young age. Like pretty much every stop in the minor leagues, he was the youngest player at every stop, and it was cool to just see him take it in stride, kind of push off all the media and fan hype, and know that it was happening, but not let it distract him. And just a really cool, down to earth kid, and really impressed to see what he's doing at the big league level now.
Gotcha. And staying right on the subject with Basayo, of course, a lot of discussion with O's fans and baseball fans. What are they going to do with Basallo, Rutschman, adding in Pete Alonso? Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know, of course, coming up as a catcher, Rutschman is there as well. Kind of how do you think that the Orioles are going to kind of manage that?
Yeah, I think it's going to give them some more options now. Like before, without Pete Alonso in that lineup, I mean, there's 40 plus home runs that you're going to get now that you didn't have before. And because Pete's slotted in at first base and he's going to play there every day, or at least he's going to be in the lineup, he's going to have some days where he DHs. But it takes the pressure off so many of these young hitters. And that lineup is so deep. And the fact that you have a guy also like Adley Rutschman, who's an established big league catcher behind the dish, it takes a lot of the pressure off Basallo in so many ways. Like he can kind of ease into his first full big league season, or at least we expect a full big league season, where he's going to get some reps behind the dish. He's going to be in the lineup. He'll maybe get some reps over at first base to spell Alonso. But this just allows him to settle in and just go be Sam Basallo. Like you don't have to hit fourth for us and hit 300 with 30 plus bombs. Just develop. You're still a young 20, 21 years old, whatever he is now. Just kind of see how things work at this level. And the fact that they've got a veteran piece like Alonso, Taylor Ward in the outfield, he's going to see these veteran professional hitters go about their craft every day. And the one thing that I've said from the start with Basallo since I saw him play in Aberdeen back in 2023 was like, it doesn't matter what position he plays. It doesn't matter where you stick him. He's going to hit enough to justify where he is on the diamond because there's a lot of positions at the big league level. It's like, all right, this guy can't play this position unless he hits. Like let's take first base, for example. Like you're not throwing a guy at first base if he can't be a middle of the order thumper or at least hit for a high average and or high OPS. But Basallo's a guy who you're never going to have to worry about the defense with him because his bat is going to outproduce any defensive output you can get. Like that's my view on him. I've always said he's got Yordan Alvarez level pop, and I think we're going to see that over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and kind of talking about mention some of those top guys that have come through. Which Orioles talent has kind of given you the biggest wow factor? I know you just mentioned Basallo and his skill coming through. Is there one that you were like, wow, this guy's destined for the bigs once he leaves?
Yeah, there's been a few guys who've really jumped out. Some guys that may not have been the biggest names, and that's maybe why they jumped out to me and others. But I mean, Basallo for sure is at the top of the list. Like I tell people during that 2023 season when I got to see him and Jackson Holliday in Aberdeen in the same year, like think about how crazy that is. Like two historic talents, at least at the minor league level, hopefully at the big league level, on the same team in one season. I was almost more impressed with what Basallo did because he was a little bit more of an unknown commodity. Of course, Jackson was impressive. The thing about Jackson is that like he made everything look so easy and he made the hard plays look routine in the field. He'd get to a ball at short that is a base hit or another shortstop. Maybe he gets to, but he's got to dive for. But he makes the routine play, so it's not like this wow highlight reel web gem. He just made it look routine because it was for him. Or at the plate, he's barreling up pitches that other guys don't barrel up. He's taking pitches off the plate that other guys swing at. So he just made the little things look easy, and that's why he got to the big leagues before his 21st birthday. So of course those two guys stand out, but another guy who has really, really impressed me as he's aged and as he's gone to from low A to high A, high A to double A, which is where he finished last season. Creed Willems, a catcher in the Orioles organization. Creed's a great guy. I've had a chance to get to know him on a personal level. Consider him a friend. He's just a great guy to be around. Somebody that is always going to have something to talk about. You go up to him, you don't even have to ask him a question. He's going to spark a conversation. And I saw him take some serious strides in Aberdeen from the time he came up midway through 2023 to the time he got promoted up to double A late in the 2024 season. It's tough on guys when you've got to repeat a level of the minors a year after you thought maybe you did enough to go up. But credit to Creed, he just put his head down and worked and always stayed positive. And I was really impressed to see how he got better defensively as a catcher, but more importantly, the power is just like mind blowing. Like you see this guy barrel up a baseball and you're like, wow, like he can hang with anybody. Batting practice in a game, it translates. So I'd say for the names in the organization that maybe aren't the top prospects, I'd say Creed Willems was my guy that I was really impressed with.
That's awesome. And talking about more players that'll be coming in with the MLB draft coming up. We talked with Dan Halote from the Kannapolis Cannonballers, the White Sox single A affiliate, about the number one pick. The Orioles at number 7. Still some great talent on the board. What are you looking? Which direction do you think the Orioles might go here in this upcoming MLB draft?
Well, I think they'll go college bat like they normally do, high in drafts. At least they have gone that way in the Mike Elias era. And it makes a lot of sense. I think that's the highest floor type of player. In a lot of cases, maybe even the highest ceiling. But I think you know what you're getting a little more when you take a position player high in a draft more than a pitcher. And especially when you take a college position player, a guy who's played at least 3 years at a D1 university. A lot of the guys the Orioles have picked SEC, ACC, Pac-12. I think they have a plan. They execute it well normally, and they know what they're doing. So I'd say they probably will go college bat. A lot of Orioles fans will say they want to see the Orioles finally take a pitcher in the first round. I don't necessarily see that happening. It's just going to depend on how the 6 picks go in front of them. I think a lot of it will depend on what happens with some of the current prospects in the organization. Like how many guys do they continue to trade from the minor league system to help the big league team? Like we've seen a lot of that this offseason. But I'd say if I had to bet, I'd probably say college bat.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know. Talk with Dan, it Rock Chalowski, a lot of these, top names coming out. Of course, he's the number one guy, but yeah, interested to see where the Orioles go in that direction. I guess continuing on that prospect, kind of looking at a guy that's really wowed you. A few underrated players that you've seen that Orioles fans should keep an eye on coming up the pipeline.
Yeah, well, a couple guys that I would have mentioned for this answer. I can't really anymore because they've since been traded since the off season started. But just to throw them out there, a couple guys I really liked towards the end of the season. Two of them went in the trade to the Rays for Shane Baz, right-handed pitcher Michael Ferret, who I think is absolutely a big league arm, and then Austin Overn, an outfielder, absolute speed demon, who's developing a serious power stroke from USC. Played this past year for the Ironbirds, got up to Double A. Those two were up and coming Orioles prospects that I would have said to keep an eye on. They're now out of the organization. But right now, I think you got to look at this past draft class where the Orioles, again, like I talked about earlier, heavy on the college bats. Vaheva Aloy from Arkansas. Anytime you can get a guy who won the Golden Spikes Award that late in the first round, I think it's an absolute steal. So I'd say keep an eye on him because one, he plays a premium position at shortstop, and two, the hit tool is there. And he's also a right-handed bat. So I think that's important to keep an eye on because the Orioles have a lot of lefties in their lineup right now, at least the guys that you're going to build around. What you think about Colton Cowser, Jackson Holliday, and Gunnar Henderson. And then Adley Rutschman, of course, is a switch hitter. A lot of lefties in that lineup. Sam Basallo, Dylan Beavers. You need some right-handers to balance that out. So I'd say Vaheva Aloy, definitely keep an eye on him. Not necessarily under the radar, but he fits what they're looking to do. And then I'd say keep an eye on some of the pitchers at Double A this upcoming season in 2026. I think there are going to be some names that surprise people. And then you look at the AAA roster in Norfolk. One name to absolutely start to know is right-hander Trey Gibson. He is an absolute unit on the mound. 6'6", 6'7", whatever he is, 250. I mean, he's a workhorse, and he really came on strong last season. He'll be a big leaguer this coming year. I think that's my opinion. No inside knowledge, just my personal opinion. But he fits the mold of a guy who can be a starter at the big league level, or worst case, a reliever because he's got two filthy breaking balls, a curveball that he likes a lot, and then a sweeper. And then the fastball up in the zone, 97, 98 plus. I think definitely keep an eye on Trey Gibson.
Awesome. Got some Orioles insight, got some Rays insight now as well on some guys that are going down to Florida. Kind of what aspects of these guys do you really kind of pay attention to? I know you talked about earlier about kind of the outside of game stuff, all of the prep work that goes into it. But are there specific things when you're calling the game, when you're prepping, when you're seeing these guys that you're like aspects that you pay close attention to when analyzing these types of guys?
Yeah, it's definitely different from a broadcast perspective than from somebody who's down on the field, like a coach in the dugout, an instructor, somebody in the front office who's evaluating so many different things. But one thing that I look at for hitters specifically is how they control the strike zone. Like, are they taking pitches that are close but are balls? Are they making hard, solid contact on pitches that are in the zone that big leaguers do damage on? So I think that's big for me. Like I'll see location for a hitter and what they're swinging at, what they're not swinging at. Um, and of course, clutch situations, how they can do it in big moments as well. For pitchers, I look a lot at body language on the mound. Like when I'm broadcasting a game or even as a fan watching a game, you kind of know when a pitcher's really feeling it, when he's in a groove. You'll see guys at the big league level like Max Scherzer strut around the mound. There's guys that really show emotion, screaming into their glove, fist pumping when they get an inning-ending strikeout, walking off the mound. So I'll look at that. And one thing specifically with body language I'll look at is in between pitches. How they react to a miss, or if they give up a blue pit or something like that, and then how quickly that pitcher is getting back on the mound after the previous pitch they just threw. Of course, there's a pitch clock, so everybody has to work under a certain time frame. But some guys say, I don't even need that pitch clock, 20 seconds, whatever. I'm throwing it within 6 when I get the ball back on the mound. So I look at that like rhythm for a pitcher and the flow of the game that they dictate.
Awesome. Awesome. And switching gears now, Orioles, Arizona Fall League got to call a bunch of games this past fall with some of the top talent across minor league baseball, major league baseball going out there. First, kind of keep it with the Orioles guys, Enrique Bradfield, the number 4 prospect in the system, going out there. What can O's fans expect out of Bradfield? Really put it on display to start the Fall League with his bat and, of course, with his legs on the diamond.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing everybody knows about Enrique is that he can steal bags with the best of them. Like he is such an elite base runner, and he's such an elite defender too. He robbed a home run in the Arizona Fall League for the final out of a game that was just insane. Like getting to the spot, gloves fully over the wall with the arm. So everybody knows that like the glove and the legs, are big league ready. If they're not big league ready, very close. But the thing that I've always liked about Enrique is that like I like his game at the plate. Like I like the way he handles the strike zone. I think that he has improved as a hitter. He's doing some things differently. Like when I was out in the fall league, I noticed the stance was a little bit different than what I had seen the previous couple of years in Aberdeen. So he's doing things to help his game. And of course, he's going to use his legs to his advantage. So if he hits the ball on the ground, like that's going to work better for him than other guys out there, or spraying line drives to the outfield. He's going to turn singles into doubles, doubles into triples, things like that, where most guys would only get a base or two. So that's what I'm impressed with about Enrique, but also the fact that he is just a really confident baseball player. Like he's really confident in his ability, and he knows that even when he's struggling, like there's going to be better days. Like, you take an 0 for 4, you don't do much to help your team win, but the next day come back and find a way. So I think Enrique is always looking to find some small way to help the team win, even if he's not at his best. So I like that about him.
Gotcha. And kind of where do you think this will be the year? I know, of course, projecting here, looking at what the Orioles are looking at. They got a handful of other guys, got to make decisions at AAA, big league level. Think this is the season we see Enrique in the big leagues in center field, in the outfield at all?
I hope so. I mean, just like, getting to know Enrique the last couple of years, he's a great guy, consider him a friend. I mean, he's one of the nicest dudes I've met in this game. So, from a personal bias standpoint, yes, I hope he's up at the show, absolutely. But just from an unbiased look at it, I think yeah, you might see him at some point late in the second half. Maybe he's a guy that gets a shot because another player goes down with an injury. Like I don't think that he's a guy this year where they're going to say, "All right, it's this day is when we'd like to have Enrique Bradfield up." I think it's going to be more so force the front office's hand and say, "All right, let's give this guy a shot," or he gets up to the show as a need-based promotion, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of Hall of Fame, All-Star, big league careers that have started because somebody else got hurt, or maybe somebody got moved out of the organization and they needed to fill a spot. So, however he gets up, I think he's going to impact the team in doing the little things right. And if it were me, like when I play MLB The Show, I'm always throwing a guy with 90 plus speed on my bench for the playoffs to just steal bags late in a close game. So he's a guy who could fit the playoff roster if they want an extra guy off the bench who can spell somebody in the outfield defensively for the last 2 innings if they have a lead, or if they need somebody to steal a bag or score a run late in a game to either tie or take the lead. Like he absolutely fits that.
Who wins in a foot race, Enrique Bradfield or Chandler Simpson? Who would you put your money on?
Oh man, I'm putting on Enrique.
There
That's
we
my
go. Of
guy.
course, of
I'm putting
course.
on Enrique. Hopefully he sees this clip at some point. But I love Chandler Simpson. I love guys who play with that skill set and use their speed and their legs to their advantage. But give me Enrique, man. But again, it's the confidence, not only the legs, but the confidence.
There we go. Awesome. Gotta get it started. Gotta circulate the video here in the off season. Of course, not only Orioles prospects, you got to see a lot of different guys up close. And who stood out? We'll start with who really stood out to you, kind of going in a large scope, watching a bunch of these guys compete out there in the Arizona Fall League. What kind of stood out to you? Who stood out to you? Players that really took your eye?
Yeah, great question. I'll go back to the 2024 Arizona Fall League season first because I spent the full Fall League, calling games and doing communications work for MLB out there. The guys that jumped out the most, I don't think surprised too many people. Jack Caglione, the way he can just obliterate a baseball. Like you make a mistake in the zone, like you might as well just turn your head and watch it fly as a pitcher. Like it's leaving the yard. That's what he can do. Just insane power, insane strong build. So I was impressed with Jack. Nick Kurtz, not necessarily for the numbers he put up in the fall league. He was getting pitched around a little bit, and he also came in late, and he was, kind of fresh off a little bit of an injury, so he's working his way back. But just his plate discipline, I was like, this guy is a big leaguer. Like his eye at the plate was so exceptional. Like I hadn't seen much like that in years of calling minor league games. So they stood out. Caleb Durbin, who was a Rookie of the Year finalist this past year for the Milwaukee Brewers, he was an absolute menace on the base paths in the fall league in 2024 and actually the year before as well. But he's just that grinder type of player that fits any roster and the guy you want in your clubhouse because he's going to work for everything he gets. Like every at bat he gets, every chance to have his name penciled in the lineup, he's going to work harder than somebody else because he's a smaller guy, can't coming from a D3 school. Like that guy has earned his way to the show, and like I said, fits any lineup, any roster, and he's just going to do a lot of things to help your team win games. Make a big play in the field. The uniform is going to be dirty, swiping bags. He'll go first to third or second to home on a single. A line drive single to right center to bring in a run in a key spot, something like that. So he really stood out in 2024 and just love his game overall. And then this past year, I was out there for a week calling games. I really liked what I saw, um, really from most of the bigger names in the league. But one that really jumped out was Alfredo Duno from the Reds organization. He was the Florida State League MVP this past year in 2025, playing for the Daytona Tortugas. I mean, that dude has some insane raw power. Young guy, not the biggest guy in the world. He's big, but not the biggest. But I think he has a chance to be a special hitter. So he's a guy that jumped out for sure. Wish I had been out there longer this year, but definitely a lot of big names were out in the AFL in 25.
Awesome. And we talked about it too on the show about the Arizona Fall League, about guys like Kevin McGonigal as well, who was there this past season getting experience. What would be your pitch to these MLB teams and being able to kind of push their top prospects to go out there? Because sometimes there's the question of, okay, is it beneficial for these guys to get that extra experience before the next season?
Yeah, I think what the fall league really is they brand it as the finishing school, like basically saying like this is the last stop, like this is the last um thing that you need to prove, where the last place you need to prove that you're ready for the big leagues, playing against some top talent. And for a lot of guys, that's the case. They're on the doorstep, they go out there, they have a great fall league, they go to the show. But um, teams are hesitant to send their top pitching prospects out to the Arizona Fall League for good reason. Pitching is so valuable in baseball. You can never have enough of it. And the top pitchers in the big leagues, like they're expensive. Aces are making 40 plus million a year. You're seeing guys get 200, 300, some even $400 million contracts. Think of like Tarek Skubal, what he's going to get, and Paul Skeens once they're free agents. So teams are trying to protect their arms when these guys are young, before they get to the big leagues. And of course, while they're cheap, like it's really important to have guys who are not making top dollar in your organization be able to perform at some point at the big league level. And if a guy has a full season where he throws during the regular campaign, it's really tough to say, hey, go throw more innings, but also like don't do anything for 3 weeks and then you have to ramp up again and go to Arizona in October. So that's tough, but I definitely would encourage front offices to give some of their higher up pitching prospects a shot to pitch in that league, because one thing that it'll show people is that those top pitching prospects can get hitters out in a really tough environment. And it's such a tough environment as a pitcher in the fall league because one, the atmosphere you're in, the ball flies in the desert in Arizona, and two, most organizations will send their top hitting prospects. So on top of the ball just flying and the elements being against you as a pitcher, you got to face all these absolute studs who mash the baseball. So for the pitchers that do go out there and have success, it's like, wow, like that guy's legit. He might be a big leaguer. So I say, you know, send him out there, see what the pitcher's got, and position player wise, keep sending guys out there. Make sure they get their ABs in, because it's important for position players to just the more you can see live pitching, the better.
Another question, kind of who were your favorite Arizona Fall League standouts? You mentioned one name. Any others that you want kind of fans to keep an eye on across the league?
Again, it's a guy who everybody knows the name, Andrew Painter in the Phillies organization. What I saw him do in 2024 in the Fall League was very impressive. He was by far the most polished pitcher out there. Like the stuff out of the hand just looked different. The fastball, the breaking balls, whatever. I was pretty surprised he didn't get to the big leagues in 2025. Now, of course, they're being cautious with him, and he also didn't have the best numbers and the best stuff at AAA this year. But I think when he gets a shot to pitch, which could be as early as making the opening day roster in 2026, I think people are going to be really impressed. So I'd say like don't forget about Andrew Painter, even though maybe his stock has dropped a little bit in terms of like the prospect name on him. But man, I think he's going to be good.
Awesome. And then just kind of looking Arizona Fall League aside, Orioles system aside, you got the top 100 going to be coming out soon for 2026. Are there, specific guys, just like larger guys, maybe number one, number, 10, any guys like that that you're kind of keeping an eye on here for the upcoming season?
Yeah, that's another good question because the system is still stocked. Like I've talked about how over the past few years it's been loaded, and it's inevitable that the prospect talent is going to decrease a little bit because guys graduate and go to the big leagues, and guys also leave the organization because the Orioles send them out of town and helped out the big league roster. But I would say definitely keep an eye on, like, again, I mentioned Trey Gibson. I mentioned him a second time because I think he is that good, future big leaguer. Keep an eye on Braxton Bragg and Nestor Herman, two right-handers in the organization who were later round draft picks. I think Bragg went in the seventh round. Herman went, it might have been the 11th. So, not your top pick guys, but they have flown through the system. And I think those guys, as long as they stay healthy, are going to be pretty impressive. Keep an eye on them. I'm hoping for a bounce back year from Vance Honeycutt. I think he's got it in him. Tough first full pro season, but I'm impressed with the way he kind of handled himself. Staying on the offensive side of things, I think Aaron Estrada is a future big leaguer as kind of like a super utility man, switch hitter who makes a ton of contact, doesn't strike out a lot, and he can play five or so different positions out on the field: second, short, third, put him in the corner outfield. And that's the type of player that fits on any roster. So I'd say definitely keep an eye on Aaron Estrada. Maybe not to be a star in the big leagues, but within these next couple of years, maybe he gets a shot to fill a bench role and can surprise some people. And then I got to give a shout out to my boy Ethan Anderson. Have had a chance to talk a lot of baseball with Ethan this past year in Aberdeen, again out in the Arizona Fall League. Guy loves the game. He has such a great feel for what he needs to do as a professional baseball player, not just as a catcher for everything that goes into his work defensively and controlling a pitching staff, but also as a switch hitter. He's got two swings that he needs to worry about. Whereas most guys, a non-switch hitter, you're right-handed or you're left-handed, that's all you got to worry about. He's got to worry about the catching work he gets in and then two different swings at the plate. So I think he has such a good feel for what he needs to do and how he can get better. I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to rise in the system.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Michael. Really appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime to the show. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Jacob, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to hop on and talk baseball, and really impressed with what you guys are doing. You, Corey, everybody else at Minor League Minute. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I'm always going to be supporting your work.